super excited about this webinar, guys, and excited for the folks who have joined us today. Thank you for coming in. So we're going to do brief introductions. I'm going to kick this off, talk a little bit about the kind of the functionality side of the webinar. So just so everybody knows, there is a Q&A function within this Zoom webinar. So if you do have a question, just pose it through that Q&A. There's also a chat feature. So if you're having issues with technical difficulties, why don't you go ahead and use the chat, and I will try to help address anything that I can. And then, I'm going to ask a little bit of a poll here before we get started. But my name is Josh Becerra. I am the VP of Strategy of Agurian, and we're really excited to talk a little bit about online marketing in the age of COVID-19. So before I turn it over to Jason and Ben, who are going to do the rest of the talking, and I did want to just ask one question in this poll. So let's see if we can get some responses. Hopefully everybody can see that and can respond. How has your business been impacted by COVID-19? If it's been negative, extremely negative, no change, positive, or extremely positive, because there are actually businesses that are benefiting from this new normal, which is kind of crazy. So, so I'm going to just collect a few more of these responses here. They're coming in, so that's great. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ben and Jason so that they can get started with this webinar. So thanks everybody for being here.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name's Jason Stemple. I'm a senior manager of paid media. I've been in the industry of digital marketing now for 10 years, and 2 of those years have been with Agurian. And before I pass it on to Ben, we're going to cover a lot of material here today, and all of the material in this deck we will make available to attendees as a resource to help you with your marketing after our webinar is over. Ben, please introduce yourself.
Cool. Hello, everybody. Ben Anderholm. I'm a manager on the paid team at Agurian. Jason and I have been working together for a while, and I've been with Agurian for about 2.5 years. Like I said, on the paid media team, my experience is fairly broad in paid media, focusing on local B2B lead gen, B2B, B2C lead gen, e-commerce, shopping, really kind of across the board. And so Jason and I think, have a wide range of experience that we hope to instill a little bit of information, wisdom, so to say, during this webinar, and I hope you get a lot out of it. Our agenda, what we really want to cover today is really outlining what our current situation is. We're going to focus in 3 distinct areas. We want to then get into our 3 pillars of the webinar, where we're going to be talking through how you can adjust your strategy in the face of COVID-19, how you can leverage some of the behavioral changes that we've actually noticed in this current situation, and also how you can best prepare for the future in our current situation. We will take questions at the end, like Josh stated. Feel free to chat and use the question and answer function through Zoom. Send questions over to Josh, and we'll address those at the end if there are any. With that being said, we want to outline what our current situation is. We're really looking at 3 specific areas: behaviorally, as in, you and I, how are we behaving differently within our market, how the digital landscape is really different within each of our different platforms. And then finally, we're going to kind of join the 2 of those together and understand how those behavior changes are actually impacting digital, and specifically highlight some specific areas there to really set the lay of the land for what we're going to run through. So first and foremost, we want to run through some of those behavioral changes. I don't need to go through this list very closely because, like you can see with Jason and I, we're both working remote. We're both adhering to a lot of the social distancing measures that are put in place where we live in Minnesota. And so I imagine all of you are all familiar with a lot of these behavioral changes. But frankly, obviously people are out of work, businesses are closed, both temporarily and unfortunately permanently. Behavior as a whole has shifted from how you engage with friends and loved ones, how you gather media, how you do all of that. And in addition, we've seen crazy changes as far as how products are in demand, what products are in demand, and how you're able to get those products in demand. And that changes fairly frequently. In addition to that, though, it is important to note that work is still getting done despite the fact that a lot of offices and a lot of businesses are closed. Like Jason and I, we're still in the office every single day, and we are still getting that work done, as the same as with a lot of other people that are impacted by this. The last thing to call out, noticing that companies are saving money, they're holding cash close, there's a lot of uncertainty, and so people are really kind of in that wait and see mode. And oftentimes it does involve cutting budgets and really getting that cost uncertainty out of the way. And so that's just an important thing to note, especially as it pertains to digital marketing. Jason's going to run through some market information that we're noticing specifically within our accounts that I think helps shape a lot of this conversation that we're going to have.
Thanks, Ben. So we've talked a bit about the behavioral changes. We're digital marketers and we're all about data. So what is the data in our account showing us? Well, since the onset of COVID-19, we see that display-oriented CPMs have declined. And by CPM, I'm saying cost per milli, which in digital marketing terminology means cost per 1,000 views. So up to a 26% decrease across the breadth of our accounts that we manage at Agerian. We've seen this massive decrease in the overall cost of CPM, which is wonderful. Social CPMs have also declined. The cost to advertise and get that visibility across social platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, that has declined, which is wonderful. Across our accounts, we've seen up to a 34% decrease in those CPMs. We've also noticed shifts in traffic. We've noticed that display and video traffic has shifted more towards mobile. And we've noticed that search traffic has shifted more towards desktop or more in favor of desktop, meaning that when people are searching and they're making more of an important buying decision or shopping decision, they're doing so more on desktop computers than on mobile computer or on mobile devices. But on mobile devices, people have time to kill. A lot of people are online right now. That's how they're spending their time. And they're doing so watching videos and looking at display inventory. So how has digital advertising changed, right? We've seen that increase on desktop with search and shopping. Impressions have overall increased by 17%, and clicks have increased by 15%. We've seen an increase on mobile with display and video, with impressions overall up 15%. That's pretty huge. So overall, in general, with these nice increases in clicks and this overall more impressions, more eyes, lower CPMs, we're seeing that conversion rates have declined. So of all the people that are searching, fewer of them are making a decision to buy or to take action filling out that lead gen form or call. And we're noticing that business decisions are on hold at a lot of companies because these businesses are waiting to see how things pan out. Many businesses are. There are other businesses that just haven't figured out how to adjust to doing business in the age of COVID. However, there are some specific industries that are seeing a lot of growth. And all businesses could take a lesson or few from these businesses and make shifts to their business to follow suit. So we've noticed that there's been a boom in essential services. If you sell something that people absolutely need, that they're used to getting from like just driving to a store to pick it up easily, and now they're no longer able to get it, that's like this essential service, and we've seen that really pick up in conversions online. Any products related to COVID-19, products related to safety measures such as face masks, hand sanitizer, anything that's going to keep people feeling safe and feeling healthy. Those products that are being sold, we've seen a boost in conversions. And then again, or lastly, high-end products. People advertising products to an upper class audience who have money to spend and aren't worried about conserving their funds. Those people are able to weather this storm and are doing fairly well. We've seen conversions on the rise there. So for behavioral changes in our market, Ben is going to speak to what we've been seeing.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. What I said earlier, we want to really take the behavioral changes that we're seeing in our daily lives and combine that with the metrics that we're seeing in all our different advertising platforms to really understand how are those behavior changes in our lives impacting how people are searching online, because at the end of the day, we're really prioritizing digital marketing here specifically. To do that, we looked at Google Trends to really understand what changes we are seeing. And we noticed a couple of things. First and foremost, we saw those types of queries that had increased search volume. So first and foremost, I think this one won't come as a surprise to anybody, but we've seen a massive influx in queries that contain delivery. As people are at home, they're looking for people, they're looking for people to bring things to them: food, entertainment, essential goods, etc. We've also seen massive influxes in searches around small businesses. Could be people looking to support small businesses, as I know that's been a huge movement across both in Minneapolis and obviously beyond, but also people that could be looking to get small business loans or to understand whether or not specific small businesses that they support, whether or not they're open or allowed to be open. So we've seen that peak at the back half of in the back half of March, specifically in relation to COVID-19. We've seen a big uptick in people looking for in the how-to or DIY topic, specifically as people are home. We've noticed that people are undertaking projects, things that may fall out of their own comfort zone that they may hire somebody else to do because of being, businesses being closed and them being stuck inside. People are trying to learn and adapt how to do that, as well as understand potentially how to gain a skill during the lockdown that we're in, so they come out of it in a better state than when we went into it. So we can see a massive influx there. No contact related searches. People are very, very cognizant of trying to still do what they want to do, but do it without other human interaction, whether that be shopping or delivery, or even potentially it could be business related, where people are looking for some type of consultation, but they don't want to actually have physical interaction with somebody, so they need it to be digital or no contact oriented. And then finally, a massive influx in online searches. As we know, basically everything in our lives is now online, outside of maybe the few walks that we go on our day-to-day basis. So people are looking for the consistencies that they had within their life, but they're looking for those in an online manner. Obviously, again, food delivery, services, how-to videos, shopping, etc. All of that online. We really meant for this to be an overall indicator of that there are major influxes in search demand for specific types of queries. And on the other hand, we have seen decreased search volume overall. I thought this one was really interesting, noticing that people are less and less likely to search for cheap related search terms. So think of somebody looking for a cheap service, a cheap product, whatever it may be. Since COVID-19, people are significantly less likely to look for a price modifier on whatever they're searching for. This could be because that people are looking for something that they absolutely need and essential, and they're willing to pay whatever they want for whatever they need to get that specific product, or they're looking for quality products when they're at home. Just in general, people are being less price conscious. In addition, I thought this one was interesting as well. People are looking for solution-oriented queries, which appear to be very consistent outside of the 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, as shown on this chart over time. People are less likely to be looking for solution-oriented queries now, potentially because, again, they're in that business holding pattern, or personally, they're in a holding pattern to solve one of their issues, and they need to wait until there's a little bit more certainty, whether that be in general society, but also could be a cost thing too, where there's a lower income internally in their household and they need to hold off, or a company, I guess you could say. So to summarize this online behavior, we see that there are either sharp increases or decreases in a lot of different searches, impacting customer behavior, impacting specific products, and realistically, it could be audience specific or demand related to demand. It can vary wildly industry by industry, and I would encourage people to really understand how their specific industry is impacted by looking at Google Trends to understand, are more people searching for my product? Are less people searching for my product? Or is there no change, to really understand what's best for them?
So the next question is, how do we take advantage of that? How does your company take advantage of that? Ben and I just ran through a lot of marketing data, and that's really helpful and it's eye-opening. Next, we'll run through some changes to your strategy. So we need to discuss how to adjust your online marketing strategy to survive COVID-19, but also to thrive during this time. As we've mentioned, some companies are really doing well, taking advantage of the situation, and your company can too. So the first thing to discuss is leveraging the low CPMs, less competitors, and scarcity. So now is the time for you to be growing your brand exposure with display advertising. We discussed earlier that CPMs have really declined, the overall cost per 1,000 views. Display advertising is a brand's play to get more exposure. Allow people searching. They're spending so much more time online to find your brand. Let them see your brand. It will pay off now. It will pay off down the road. This display advertising can be done on Facebook, can be done across the web on the Google Display Network. It can be done through a programmatic buy. You should be investing your time and some resources in making some lo-fi videos, creating videos on your iPhone or with your camcorder. It doesn't have to be a highly professional video, but get that content out there because people are consuming content right now. So the more content you can create that people can engage with, the better off your brand will be. Now's the time to dominate the search results. Your competitors have likely stepped away from search and they're just not advertising right now, which is a great opportunity for you because people are searching for what you're selling. So in relation to that, I would say don't bid more aggressively. You can increase your budget for search, but don't bid more aggressively for a higher position. There's no sense in giving over Google more money. You're gonna get the same amount of exposure if you pay for a lower advertising position because the people searching are still online and they're gonna scroll down to find the thing that they want right now. And then I would say it's become a competition to buy the things that we're used to easily buying in abundance. Think how hand sanitizer and toilet paper and your regular grocery shopping has impacted your daily life and the stress that it creates in trying to get a hold of the things you want. When you're shopping online and you're ready to check out and you find that you can't check out or get a checkout today or tomorrow or the next day, you're in competition with all the other buyers. And that's affecting people's emotions in their shopping experience for everything. That sentiment of scarcity and fear of missing out or FOMO, that's increasing the speed of people making buying decisions. Use that to improve your conversion rate. Figure out how you can leverage the sentiment of scarcity and FOMO for your own business. Next, use proven keyword modifiers to gain greater traction with your search advertising in Google and in Bing. So take your regular keyword set that you have now, create a new campaign, and append these words to your typical best performing keywords. Some examples of that might be furniture, no contact delivery, or kids outdoor summer activities online. Think about people have shifted the way that they're searching for things to find access and to remain safe. Next, we'll talk about empathy mapping. Empathy mapping is a process that I developed to help people, to help businesses connect better with shoppers. So for COVID-19 empathy mapping, we want to consider how is your business the best solution among your competitors for what the shopper is trying to buy. So the first part of this is facts. We state what the facts are, the scenario that your shoppers are facing, followed by hopes. What are your shoppers hoping to accomplish with shopping online? This is what are they hoping for before they even begin their shopping experience, when they're still dreaming about or thinking about what are they hoping to buy. Next are the fears, because there's this equal balance between hopes and fears in a buying process. So people are worried. They're worried about a whole host of things before they begin that shopping process. Like, what if I can't find this? Or what if that? We try and address that and list all of them. And then lastly, gains. We examine what the hopes and the fears are in hope of finding how your business can align with those hopes and alleviate the shopper fears, thus reducing friction and making you seem like the best option for that shopper to buy from. There's a lot listed here, and as I said earlier in this webinar, we'll provide access to this as a resource to every business that's joined today, that's following along. But for the sake of keeping this webinar moving, I'm just going to run through the top 3 on each of the next slides. So for facts, COVID-19, it's highly contagious. People are really dying. The death toll is high, and that strikes a lot of fear in people. People are terrified of death. It's the unknown. People are social distancing. They're not able to connect with other humans as they're used to. And people don't want to be in a crowd. They're scared of crowds. They are avoiding crowds at all costs, which kind of goes against our human nature. Let's talk about hopes. We hope this is all going to be over soon. We hope we can find the product that we want because we know oftentimes it's not available anymore. And we hope that we don't get sick. We really hope we don't get sick. And we're doing all sorts of things to prevent ourselves from getting sick, things out of the ordinary. Fears. We fear things will continue to get worse. Like maybe we're just at the beginning of this. What if the death toll continues to grow? What if we're stuck inside all summer and fall? We fear that many products are unavailable now, will continue to be unavailable, and that companies that make those products are going to close. And we fear for our health in this hyper-aware, hypersensitive kind of way, where we're constantly washing our hands and we're being careful about touching our face and we're careful about who we're getting close to. So lastly, let's talk about the gains. And I've worked with Ben to formulate these as questions because we don't know your specific business. If you're interested at a later date of running through this process with Agurian, we'd be happy to help your business. So for gains, how can we help our shoppers believe in a bright near future so that they buy now to prepare for that brighter future? How can we convey scarcity and availability and options for our products and services so that we improve our conversion rate online? How can we communicate to help shoppers fear that their health is safe and protected when buying from us? And if you can answer those top 3 through your marketing, you'll be ahead of your competition. So let me summarize here. Adjust your strategy. Capitalize on those lower cost per millis or lower cost CPMs and potential reduced competition online. Modify your keyword set, if applicable, to include those keyword modifiers that I listed. Empathize with your customers, connect with them. Everyone's going through this. You need to address it in your marketing. Consider scarcity as a motivator. People are experiencing it every day with the other things they're buying. Find a way to utilize that for what you're selling to improve your conversion rate. Test what shoppers are willing to pay. Right now is a time where people feel desperate for the things that they want to buy. Maybe you can subtly, incrementally increase the cost and make a little bit more profit. Try selling in bulk quantities. People want to buy more so that they have to buy fewer times. Show your COVID measures to reduce buyer fear. Literally show it. If you can adjust photos and imagery on your website to show how you're addressing protecting people from COVID, that's a win.
Well, thanks, Jason. We're also going to run through some how we can leverage some of those behavioral changes that we talked about a little bit earlier to basically, set yourself up in the future for, adjusting to the new norm that we are seeing. To give a quick recap, we are noticing again, people are searching more on desktop. We're consuming media on mobile, major shifts in how people are searching. And then there also are changes in products available and also places available, whether or not places are closed or temporarily closed. First and foremost, understanding how people are searching and how that's shifted. Make sure that when you're running your digital advertising, you're reaching them where they are. Use your messaging and tactics to make sure that it's aligned with the device that they're specifically searching on to capitalize on those specific changes. In addition to that, potentially reaching people where they are on their mobile device when they're consuming display or video can be an awareness tactic to keep your brand top of mind. Because we've shown in the data that that's where there's an increased amount of inventory there. In addition, what Jason just ran through, make sure that you can empathize with your consumer. Their behavior has changed and their life has changed. Make sure that you're empathizing and setting your business up to align with those specific shifts. In addition, modify your keywords if applicable, because that can also provide a ton of value. Another call out here, we've seen the behavior shift around just demand for products and services. That changes regularly. Make sure that for your business, you're monitoring those trends and taking action when appropriate. CDC and governmental guidelines are changing a lot and changing what people are really looking for. Think toilet paper, face coverings, or the openness of specific locations. Essentials products and services have seen a massive growth in demand and overall performance, specifically because of some of those rules and regulations that are getting placed at the government level, even if they're just a guideline. We've noticed that for specific clients, after those CDC or government-oriented guidelines, we've seen impression changes of up to 400% in just a couple of days because of that specific guideline, because it shifts consumer behavior. So make sure that your campaigns and your tactics are set up to take advantage of that if applicable, or potentially pivot away from that if you need to. In addition, fads and trends are huge. Baking and home improvement projects, I know that's something that's definitely impacted my personal life. If you're able to align yourself with some of those trends, with people making those home improvement projects, potentially pivoting your messaging to make sure that you're aligning with that. And then finally, just if you have those in-demand products or services, make sure that you're really understanding what those trend changes are and align and adjust your tactics and your budgets accordingly to take advantage or to not waste budget. Finally, businesses are temporarily closed and operations have been drastically changed. That being said, consumers still are there, still considering and searching, even though they may not be taking action to the final state. You can potentially take action here by growing your customer list or growing your potential future pipeline by running brand awareness or consideration. Make sure that your company is top of mind, whether that be empathizing with the consumer or just staying aware that, hey, we may not be able to take or fulfill orders, but we still are here for whenever we get out on the other side of this. And finally, in addition to that, you can invest in the future, which this entire next section will really be based around. So we can adjust our tactics now. We can adjust to align behavior. But in addition to that, we think this is an opportunity to prepare yourself for the future. The current state of COVID is not going to be forever. And we can potentially set ourselves up to come out the other side in a much better spot and do a lot better after the fact, as opposed to starting from square one over again. So first and foremost, we believe that companies can add that long-term value. We've noticed this with restaurants and local marketplaces. Forced adoption happens. Restaurants are now offering takeout and pickup, which they never did before. After things are all said and done, that's still an additional revenue stream that they will keep long-term, and they were forced into that in the short term. Same with online marketplaces for retail. Lots of small businesses had to shut their doors, and pivoting to that is opening their online retail space. When their doors are allowed to open again, they still have that supplementary retail front of digital that gets tons of traffic. And then finally, making improvements or updates to your sales process. That could be something where you're trying to be less touch to align with people that are looking for no contact. That could be some type of online exclusive demo or webinar that really gets your product out there without the need to have somebody face-to-face, or even something as simple as doing landing page testing or working on UX improvements. All of those will pay dividends in the long run, while potentially taking your time in the short term. Another thing we want to touch base on here is the concept of time preference. Time preference is defined as the current relative valuation placed on receiving a good at the earlier date compared to leaving it at a later, or receiving it at a later date. What that really means is would you rather have $1 now or $1.20 sometime in the future by investing in those processes? Realistically, we think that this time preference in digital marketing strategy could be one of those key differentiators between those who succeed long-term and those who merely survive. We think that that's a huge opportunity. And what that really means is Dedicating resources to growth in the future can provide that supplemental value at a later date. Some examples of that could be, again, website development, awareness building, and even investing in continued marketing could be seen as pushing out that time preference to a future date if you have a long sales cycle, or even a practice such as SEO, which doesn't necessarily pay dividends within a week, but the long-term value is still there. In our current slowdown, basically, what can we invest our time and money in so that when things come back, we don't come back at square one, we come back at square two, square three, and we improve on our overall process. Lastly, we do believe that there will be long-term payoffs. Taking advantage of that captive audience with those low CPMs that Jason and I have been talking about can help build awareness and really support your pipeline growth in the future. Building that awareness can lead to cheaper conversions long-term, easier adoption, et cetera. People may not be willing to take action now due to a lot of the uncertainty, cost uncertainty within their company or their job, but they're still doing research so that when things get back to normal, they're able to hit the ground running and make those decisions they need to make. And so if you can get in front of them now with that awareness, then you can be in that consideration state when things get back to normal. Basically, to summarize, we want to look at long-term digital strategy and make sure that you're adjusting as necessary. There are huge behavioral changes that we've noticed in the marketplace, and that offers huge opportunity. We just need to pay attention to that and really understand how is that impacting your business specifically. And then finally, thinking about this not as necessarily a problem, but as an opportunity. Can we free up time and capacity now to set ourselves up for the long term versus panicking and saying, I need to continue with my as is now and make it work here and now? Really focusing on that long-term payoff through different tactics that we outlined previously. With that, that's kind of a summary of our 3 core pillars. If there are any questions, Josh, you can direct them over to Jason and I, and we're happy to answer any of them.
Yeah, great. Thanks, guys. We'll open up the Q&A now, and one of the things that I can do is share the results from the poll that we did earlier. I know that some people joined late, so they didn't get to participate, but I am just sharing the poll results, so hopefully everybody can see it. It looks like of the people who were able to respond, it's kind of mixed. There's some people who have had no change positively impacted, and then some, of course, negatively impacted, which is, to be expected, and that's what we're hearing a lot about.
Hey, Josh, one thing to add here with those poll results, I think it's really interesting to understand specifically around those behavioral changes and how outside factors can really influence that. Understanding that we've had clients that were extremely negatively impacted in the short term, and there were announcements or changes as far as regulations or those essential products that we've noticed, and things have flipped in an instant with massive influx in demand and traffic for specific areas of their business, just because of those little behavioral changes that were being presented by external factors. So it definitely makes sense to see those results that we saw, but things can change and we need to be prepared, and that's why it's important to pay attention to the market and pay attention to your industry. Yeah,
that's great. Well, good. Well, I'm not seeing any Q&A, so I think we're going to call this a wrap for today. Really appreciate the attendees for joining us, and I want to thank Jason and Ben. Because you registered for this, we will be able to send you the deck, and of course, if you have any questions or want to follow up with us on like empathy mapping and some of the other things that we talked about today, we would love to have that conversation. So thanks, everybody. Stay safe and stay healthy, and look for our next Agurian webinar coming up here in the future.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bye now.